Hey folks, welcome back. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. It's taken some time now, over a week since the Israelis began bombing Iran to stop them from building nuclear weapons. Well, they're ready to assemble them, we should say. So Israel finally acted after decades of no action from anyone to stop Iran from getting to the stage, and did the world a favor by preventing them from achieving a nuclear weapon, at least for the moment. South Africa's government initially issued a statement from DIRCO, the Director of International Relations Cooperation, their foreign ministry, in which they condemned the activities, the war, called for, people to stop the conflict. That's reasonable. You would expect that from a government. But strangely, senior leaders from the African National Congress and the Government of National Unity had nothing to say. In particular, President Ramaphosa, or, Tehran's favorite diplomat, Naledi Pandor, ostensibly now retired, but opens her mouth when she wants to slander the United States. She seems pretty quiet on this issue too. Of course, remember, Naledi Pandor is the person who made a congratulatory phone call to Hamas after the October 7th attacks in 2023. Congratulate them on slaughtering 1,200 innocent civilians and a handful of military. So South African leaders have been largely silent, but now, over a week after the conflict has begun, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa had something to say to the press. He fancies himself as a peacemaker, a deal maker. Of course, what peace has Cyril Ramaphosa created anywhere on the planet? Anywhere. Is the Ukraine war over? No, but that's not his fault. But he made a big show of being, Africa is going to solve this. We're going to end this conflict. Of course, it didn't end. Has Cyril Ramaphosa negotiated an end to the jihad taking place in Nigeria, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, Mauritania? No. Has he negotiated or made an effort to end the conflict between Sudanese forces and the RSF? No. Has he worked out any peace agreement in South Sudan between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir? No, for a conflict that's been lasting for a decade. Has Cyril Ramaphosa and the ANC's intervention ended the conflict in the Central African Republic? No. No. They have had successful interventions in places where they have overwhelming force, like Comoros and Operation Boleas in Lesotho, and also in Burundi. But these things long predate the current African National Congress, which is obsessed with other things. So what exactly is Cyril's role as a peacemaker? He fancies himself a peacemaker, but in reality, he's an appeasement maker. That's what he is. He wants the war to end. Why? So that Iran can retain nuclear weapons? That's an unacceptable outcome. Peacemaking is the only way, says Ramaphosa. Takes him a week to respond, but he does respond. He called for dialogue between Iran and Israel. What dialogue? Iran has no interest in dialogue. Are you whistling past the cemetery, Cyril? They've called for the extermination and elimination of all Jews and Israel, the state of Israel. And they've called for death to America. And they've murdered Americans and they murdered Israelis. And they pay their proxies in the Houthis in Yemen, and Hezbollah in Lebanon, and Hamas in Gaza to kill people on their behalf. That is their foreign policy. What dialogue can you have with people so addicted to murder and mayhem? Honestly, Cyril, dialogue? That's not going to happen. This is ludicrous. He said the conflicts were increasing the destruction of infrastructure and lost life. Well, duh. No kidding. They're also quite expensive for the combatants. He was speaking on the 30th anniversary of the Constitutional Court today. He said, dialogue is necessary because Israel's intensified the airstrikes targeting Iran's nuclear facilities and key regime leadership sites. Well, actually, if the Israelis are successful, that may bring this conflict to conclusion far sooner than any supposed dialogue that you're arguing for, Cyril. He added these conflicts are quite costly and that they're costing the world a lot of money. Okay? Yeah. He said that immediately, without resorting to further airstrikes and bombs, the dialogue should start. Why? That just gives Iran more time. The world has sat around as a bunch of appeasement monkeys for years. Just like Hitler. Neville Chamberlain, peace in our time. Barack Obama's Iran deal, peace in our time. And Iran marched on, upgrading and enriching uranium, plutonium, and building bombs. Cyril had the following to say. Prices are beginning to rise. We're already suffering in price rises in our fuel. As the conflict is raging in that part of the world, fuel becomes more expensive, which we import at great cost. We want the conflict to come to an end. You want the conflict to come to an end because you're paying more for petrol? I thought it was about infrastructure and lost lives. Notice how he pulls at the heartstrings of South Africans because our petrol prices are increasing. But Cyril Ramaphosa had nothing to say when Joe Biden undermined the price of energy. by putting uncertainty in the market, by funding green energy windmills and rainbows, and driving the price of oil from 35 bucks a barrel up to over 70 or 80 dollars a barrel. That windfall profit of close to 250 billion that Iran accrued over a few years that they never would have gotten if Joe Biden hadn't undermined the energy markets. Ramaphosa had nothing to say about that when the prices were rising due to that. But now he's concerned about prices. He has no credibility. His government is in bed with Iran. It's their friends, and their friends are in trouble. So they want dialogue. Really. Who are they going to have dialogue with? The Ayatollah Khamenei? This guy is dead set on murdering people. What kind of faith is that? What kind of religious leader is that? That he's in favor of murdering people, calls for the death of people. That's not a religion. That's a cult. That's a cult. Cult of ghouls. And he brings shame to Islam and to Muslims around the world. So Cyril's the peacemaker. Not. He has zero credibility on this topic. Zero. His foreign minister congratulated Hamas on the murder of 1,200 people, civilians. Their ties with Iran are long-standing. And of course, the supposition is they receive money from Iran. Whether that's true or not, if they are, it's certainly in jeopardy now because the mullahs are going to lose control soon. That's why Cyril wants dialogue, to save the mullahs, to save the Iranian fascist terror state-sponsored terrorism. Never condemned them, did you? What say you, South Africa? What say you, world? Cheers.